good afternoon, good day to you, and welcome to Bayou Sports Talk here down in the Bayou of Louisiana, baby. We have a great for you, fam. Before we get started, I just want to thank you for your love and your support to all of you all who have been rocking with us day one, as well as those who jumped on and came in and supported us. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm the moderator. I'll let him.
It's me, Coach 67 Sports TV. Shout out to the awesome and amazing LDBC, Lions Den Broadcasting Community. Shout out to the greatest university in the world, the Southern University, home of the mighty Jaguars. We appreciate everybody from Jaguar Nation, everybody from the LDBC, and everybody that's just been supporting us and rocking with us since day one. We appreciate you. Peace and blessings to each and every one of y'all. And we're looking forward to having an excellent and amazing show today. Of course, there's been some recent thunderstorms in this particular area. So, hopefully everyone that is supporting the show is safe and sound. And in addition to that, we had some technical issues during the course of the show. Wi-Fi has kind of been sketchy because of the storm. So bear with us, but we appreciate y'all. Much love and blessings to y'all.
Guys, and also want to give a shout out and be here. As you know, he's going through some family issues. So please show him some love. Ray, we love you and your family. Much love to you all. So let's get started, Coach. What do you have for us in boxing?
Well, first and foremost, in the sport of boxing, the thing I don't like is Ryan Garcia. He's trying to look like, basically, he's trying to win in the court of public opinion. Today, there's going to be the undisputed heavyweight championship fight. I'm going to get to that in a minute, but he's over there to support Tyson Fury. And to me, it makes perfect sense. You have one drug cheat supporting another drug cheat. You have one trash human being supporting another trash human being. So to me, it makes perfect sense. But more than anything, what Ryan Garcia is doing is it's a little bit clever. Basically, he's trying to appeal to certain individuals. He's making it seem like, it's not that big a deal. He didn't cheat. He's been set up, talking about the elites and the Illuminati want him, was trying to, take him down, so on and so forth, because he took a picture with Donald Trump, so on and so forth. So at the end of the day, Ryan Garcia is a trash individual, but he know his B sample is gonna pop dirty this coming Wednesday, and as a result, he's trying to get ahead of that. So it goes to show you more of his antics in terms of, he's dirty. He's dirty, and instead of just saying, "Hey, I was wrong," he's coming up with every excuse not to be accountable for his actions. In addition to that, you have all of these banana-eating monkeys, these coons, these buffoons. They're pandering to Ryan Garcia. They're pandering to all of these YouTube fans that have this disdain for Devin Haney, and really just for black fighters in general, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, you got individuals like Keyshawn Davis, who tested positive for marijuana in his previous fight, and it was a no contest. And Ryan Garcia, leading up to the fight with Devin Haney, he's visibly smoking marijuana on camera. And he has the nerve and the audacity to come to Ryan Garcia's defense. Tank Davis, who knocked out Ryan Garcia. But since he has this disdain for Devin Haney, and Devin Haney merely wanted to prove that he was the better fighter of the two, he came to Ryan Garcia's defense. Clarissa Shields, who went against Tank Davis, for Tank Davis coming to Ryan Garcia's defense, basically she let Ryan Garcia disrespect her on a public platform. And instead of her having the same energy that she had for Tank Davis, she kind of gave him a pass to a certain degree. She's cooning and buffooning for Ryan Garcia. So to me, it's amazing and it's astonishing how when somebody black does something wrong, a lot of these same individuals, they shame that black person. They don't have no grace for him, there's no mercy for him. They ready to throw him under the bus. The scum of the earth, so on and so forth. However, a non-black individual does something, especially when the black person is the victim in a particular situation. Essentially, what they do is they throw dirt on the black person and they justify the person who did it wrong. They come to their defense. And the crazy thing about it is most of these people are black people. All these YouTubers that, saying Devin Haney is the police and it was only trace amounts of this substance and, it's not that big a deal. Quit crying and complaining. These are black people. These are black YouTubers. These are black fighters that's defending Ryan Garcia. And it makes me sick. The next thing is, of course, recently, Monster Inoue. As far as I'm concerned, he looked very unimpressive in his stoppage of Louis Nery. Now, I know a lot of individuals are going to be like, well, coach, many individuals have Monster Inoue being a pound for pound number one fighter in the world, but to me, that's the problem. Monster Inoue, to me, he's a lot like Chocolatito Roman Gonzalez. Remember, at one point, when Floyd Mayweather Jr. was in one of his sabbaticals, in one of his temporary retirements, Chocolatito, HBO, he was pushing him as the number one pound for pound fighter in the sport of boxing, even though you had other fighters, guys like Andre Ward that was far better than him. But HBO was trying to push this guy so hard. And, of course, at the end of the day, he wasn't that guy in the grand scheme of things. But they tried to push him that way. And the sport of boxing always tries to push a non-black fighter that's really not deserving to be at the number one spot on the pound-for-pound list, whether it's Chocolatito Roman Gonzalez or whether it was Vasil High-Tech Lomachenko, who had an unavenged loss on his record at the time. And he had less than 10 fights. But they said, allegedly at the time, he was better than Andre Ward and Terrence Bud Crawford, which was ridiculous and absurd to me. So when you're a black fighter and you great, they act like you good or average. And you a non-black fighter and you okay, they act like you're the greatest thing since sliced bread. So to me, I can't stand this ridiculous double standard, the hypocrisy in the sport of boxing. And more than anything, the just flat out racism is disgusting to me. These individuals that saying Monster Inoue is the number one pound for pound fighter in the sport of boxing, to me is absurd, it's ridiculous. By far as Terrence Bud Crawford, especially with his last win against Errol Spence Jr. I don't even know why individuals could even fix their mouth to say that, but that's another story for another day. And previously, I talked about Vasil High-Tech Lomachenko. Last week, he stopped George Kambosos in the 11th round to become the IBF IBF lightweight champion in Perth, Australia, because we know George Kambosos, he's from Australia. And the ironic thing about this particular fight, Devin Haney, I got Ryan Garcia on the brain because of his trash behavior and his ridiculous antics. But even with that being said, Devin the Dream Haney went to Australia twice, and he beat George Kambosos in very impressive fashion. Then he turned around and he beat Vasil High-Tech Lomachenko. And many individuals, even though Devin Haney clearly won that fight in my estimation, a lot of those individuals were basically saying, hey, we think Loma won that fight and he was robbed and blah, 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 whatever the case may be. Because I rewatched the fight recently. I was only able to find 4 rounds I could give to Loma. So to me, Devin Haney clearly won that fight. But even with that being said, that's another narrative ESPN and Top Rank tried to push. Those two fought against each other, and Loma stopped George Kambosos. Now, it's ironic because after the fight, a lot of individuals that was that pretty much admitted that Devin Haney actually beat Vasil High-Tech Lomachenko. They were saying, Loma is an old fighter. He's washed. He this, he that. Now, once he stopped George Kambosos, to get the IBF lightweight title. Now all of a sudden, Loma looks great, Loma this, Loma that. So it goes to show you the inconsistency in the sport of boxing. And they always talk about the LDBC, we race baiters and we try to push certain narratives. But if you look at the sport of boxing, that's all the sport of boxing does. They push certain narratives, they push certain agendas. So it's just the world we live in. And of course, like I mentioned earlier, today, Tyson, the Gypsy Queen Fury, and Alexander Usyk, they fight for the undisputed heavyweight championship of the world. There's not a black fighter in that particular fight. And as a result, this country does not care because they always need a black fighter in these particular fights to be the villain, whether it's Deontay Wilder, the Bronze Bomber, whether it's Devin Haney, whoever the case may be. They need a black fighter to be the villain. And if it's not a race thing involved in it, then in this country, they don't really care. But even though this fight is a big deal in Europe, because, both of those fighters are European fighters, at the end of the day, since it's a non-black, since there's not a black fighter in that particular fight, there's no villain that they really could cast in that particular fight. And as a result, people in this country don't care if it's not Wilder or another black fighter to be the villain. They really don't care about the undisputed heavyweight championship in this particular country, especially when you don't have American fighting in the fight. Also, this clown here, Pretty Boy, well, he was Pretty Boy, now Floyd Money Mayweather. He's been
And
released.
Coach, that's the next thing that I was going to touch on. But go ahead.
Yeah, he's been released. He's no longer held against his will overseas. He's here now. Salute to my brother Jared Levin Green. Salute to Jay Barr. But like I was saying, he's over here now. And we know Tank is another coon and a buffoon, just like Floyd. Both of them clowns, if you ask me. But Tank and Floyd, they've been getting into it recently. And now that Floyd is back on U.S. soil, he tried to hate on the Tank Davis versus Frank Martin fight. And he said the fight has been canceled, which is not the case. That was his way of dry hating on his former fighter, Tank Davis. And both them clowns and buffoons to me, truthfully speaking, I hope Frank Martin stops that clown Tank Davis. Because he's another one, he just been going out of his way to hate on Devin the Dream Haney. And the fact that you knocked out a weight drain version of Ryan Garcia, and Ryan Garcia came in heavy against Devin Haney, and he used PEDs, and you're going to come to his defense just to make your win over him look even more impressive. Man, just to go to show you that he's a trash human being. He's a trash individual also. He a banana-eating monkey, and he a coon and a buffoon just like the rest of them.
Okay, Coach.
I'm keeping it real, boo. I'm not
But
sugarcoating.
no.
And the last thing I want to talk about is next week. The next week, former undisputed heavyweight champion Iron Mike Tyson, he's gonna fight against Jake Paul. And it's sad when you have somebody like him at this stage in his life. He has to get back in the ring and fight again. And that's all Jake Paul has been doing. He's been fighting over the hill MMA fighters and boxers who are past their prime. So, it's sad how the sport of boxing is so trash. That's part of the reason why, I kind of push my channel in a different direction. Instead of covering boxing, I push it towards my favorite sports team, my beloved Jaguar Nation, the Southern University Jaguars. That's the reason why I really can't really tolerate the sport of boxing. If it's really not about Deontay Wilder, Devin Haney, Errol Spence Jr., I really don't too much care about the sport of boxing because, everything with Ryan Garcia and all these other fighters, it pretty much shows. That was the reason why Jake Paul and Logan Paul was able to come into the sport of boxing and pretty much gain a huge following, a huge fan base, more so than pretty much the vast majority of fighters that's currently in the sport of boxing. Essentially, they're able to garner a type of money that really outside of the top elite fighters, they're making way more money than the average fighter, and even really way more money than just good fighters at this point, because they saw how the best fighters aren't fighting the best fighters. There's a huge racial component to the sport of boxing, and basically they were able to come in and find a lane and fight over the hill, washed up MMA boxers and MMA fighters, and that's how the Paul brothers are pretty much in a position they're in. I mean, of course, due to YouTube, they're already millionaires, multi-millionaires, probably decamillionaires at this point. But even with that being said, basically they're able to come over into the sport of boxing. He's fighting a far past his prime faded Mike Tyson. At his age, he approaching almost 60. There's no way Mike Tyson should have to get in the ring and fight. Hopefully he is decent. I mean, if Mike Tyson was anywhere near what he used to be, he savagely stops Jake Paul in a couple rounds. But at this stage in his career, we don't, and it's gonna be a legitimate fight. It's gonna be a sanction. It's a sanctioned fight at this point. So, it's kind of interesting which direction this fight gonna go in. Basically, is Jake Paul gonna be able to stay away from Tyson and avoid getting knocked out? Is Tyson gonna be able to cut off the ring and unload with those vicious combinations he was known for in the late '80s and stop him? It's kind of interesting to see which direction this fight goes in. But it's sad that he has to get in the fight, and he another one during the build up to this fight. His antics and his behavior has been extremely weird, extremely strange. He said a handful of questionable things. So, man, to me, the sport of boxing is at this point it's worse than the WWE. At this point, the WWE has more legitimacy than the sport of boxing. And of course, at least with the WWE, we know that the outcome of the fight is predetermined. But at the end of the day, the sport of boxing is trash at this point. But that's all I have in terms of the topics in the world of boxing.
Okay, Coach. Well, with that being said, we're gonna move on because Coach, you went kind of hard just now.
Hey,
But
I'm keeping it triple.
okay, well, let's move on to the NBA. Have you been keeping up with the playoffs, Coach? What are your thoughts?
Oh, of course, of course. Yesterday I went to get my hair cut, and my barber and he basically was saying that he felt like the Knicks was going to end the series last night with the Indiana Pacers, and I'm like, nah, cuz it's going 7. Like the Pacers are going to win at home. They're going to push a game 7, and they're going to get back to New York, and I think the Knicks are going to win game 7. But he was like, nah, I think the Knicks are going to finish him tonight. And of course, we saw what happened. The Pacers was able to pull out Game 6 and keep the series going. In terms of the Mavericks and the Oklahoma City Thunder, I think the Mavericks are going to finish off the Oklahoma City Thunder. I think they're going to end it in 6. In terms of the Nuggets and the Timberwolves, I think, even though Anthony Edwards has been outstanding, he was outstanding in Game 6. They forced the Game 7. The Denver Nuggets that are reigning and defending NBA champions, I think the Nuggets are going to find a way to get it done. And, of course, the Celtics already beat the Cleveland Cavaliers. So I think in the Eastern Conference Finals, you're going to have the Boston Celtics and the New York Knicks. In the Western Conference Finals, I think it's going to be the Denver Nuggets and the Dallas Mavericks. And I think it's going to be a showdown in the NBA Finals between the Boston Celtics and the Denver Nuggets. I think the Nuggets are the favorite to repeat and win the NBA championship. However, I think the one equalizer for the Boston Celtics is if Kristaps Porzingis, if he gets back healthy, I think the Boston Celtics could pull an upset. But with the health of Porzingis, the unicorn, I don't know if he's going to be healthy and clicking on all cylinders before the NBA finals, but we'll see. But more than anything, the NBA playoffs have been pretty good. I'm pleasantly surprised. The Minnesota Timberwolves did better in this series with the Denver Nuggets than I thought they would do. Anthony Edwards, I think he's the next face of the league, in my opinion. Now I know other individuals are going to say other things, but to me, Ant-Man is a dog. Now, for these individuals that saying he's the next Jordan, the next Kobe, I disagree. I think he's probably closer to Dwayne Wade, but I think he has a Jordan, Kobe Bryant type mindset in terms of being a dog, and being a savage. I like that, his mindset. But other than that, overall, I think the NBA playoffs has kind of been good thus far. And, hopefully we get some more great games and great series to come.
Okay, coach. Well, for you guys who haven't been keeping up or you're looking forward to knowing when the next game is, today we have the Thunder plays the Mavericks at home. The Mavericks are at home. So hopefully they will pull out a win today. That's what I'm hoping, coach. So it's today at 7 p.m. And then tomorrow we have not sure about the time because it says TBD, but the Timberwolves and the Nuggets they play tomorrow as well.
Probably about
And
probably about 7 o'clock, 7:30. Probably about 7:30.
well, we'll see. And so we're gonna see when it's probably going to be day after tomorrow. I mean, probably I'm thinking tomorrow is for or day after tomorrow for the Pacers. Um, and
And the
the
Knicks.
Knicks,
Yeah, game
yes,
game seven, yeah.
correct. So that's going to be very interesting as well. So, um, I'm really up in the air for the Timberwolves and the Nuggets as well as the Knicks and the Pacers. I'm just pulling for the Mavs.
Well, I
So
mean, it's not the Pelicans, so I really could care less for one.
exactly,
I just want some
exactly.
good basketball, and then on top of that, the Dallas Mavericks are the New Orleans Pelicans division rival. So I don't want to see Luka and Kyrie be successful. Uh, they're not playing against the Pelicans, and
Well,
you know,
coach, that's your neighbors,
well, I mean, hey,
and we go to Texas pretty often when we go visit family. So, I mean, why not for Texas?
nah, I mean, I got a lot of brothers in the LDBC that rock with us from Texas, you know, and we love Texas, but in terms of the Mavs, nah, not so much. They're division rival, so hey, it's either the Pelicans or nothing for me.
I hear you, coach. Well, it's nothing for you then because the Pelicans is not present.
Well, I understand that, boo.
So let's move on, coach, and let's start with open discussion. What do you have?
All right, our first open discussion topic. It seems like TNT is losing the NBA, and as a result, it seems like the NBA is headed back to NBC. For those individuals like myself that used to love the NBA on NBC with, you know, NBA inside stuff with Amar Rashad, and then of course in terms of the play-by-play, Marv Albert, who was pretty. He had a pretty big scandal back in the gap, with this woman and allegedly. How I'm gonna phrase this correctly for allegedly biting her bottom. But other than that, like the NBA was a big thing on the NBC in like the late '90s, early 2000s, and eventually TNT won the bid, and they went to TNT. That's why we have uh, the NBA on TNT inside the NBA with Charles Barkley, with Kenny the Jet Smith, with Shaquille O'Neal and EJ Ernie Johnson. Of course, this is outside of all of these podcasts with the athletes. I think it's probably in terms of traditional media, that's probably my favorite show to watch. With Kenny,
Yes,
EJ,
coach. That's
Chuck,
what I
and Shaq.
watch.
So it looks like that show is gonna go bye bye because essentially the rights fees came up for the NBA, and I think Amazon Prime won one slot, and I think if I'm not mistaken, ESPN got ESPN ABC, and then I think the last slot is gonna go away from TNT and it's gonna go to NBC show. It seems as if the NBA on TNT is gonna go away inside the NBA. That's like my favorite show, like I was just saying. So the way, from what I understand, the way Charles Barkley's contract is set up, he has an out clause if they no longer have NBA programming. Whatever network is on, he can leave and he can go to that network. However, the Godfather, Ernie Johnson, he's made it clear he's going to stay on TNT. He's a TNT loyal guy. He's signed to TNT, so he's going to be on TNT no matter what. In terms of, I think this is where a real caveat comes in. Even though I like Ernie Johnson, I think he's replaceable. But I think you need to keep not EJ. You need to keep Chuck. You need to keep Kenny Smith and Shaq. The three of them, you need to keep them together. I
Coach,
think if
I disagree because I think they all bring that amount of balance to keep things with spice and because Ernie is that balance they need. Charles is like a little bit everywhere, and you have Kenny. He's a little bit on the laid back end. You have Shaq. He's that spice against him and Charles going back and forward. I think that's what they need. That's Ernie is that plays right in for the balance they need.
no, I agree with you in terms of
But you say he's replaceable.
no, he is replaceable, and I'm getting ready to explain why. First and foremost, you're right. EJ is the guy that kind of brings gravity to the situation when things get too far gone. Kind of like you here on, being a moderator, you kind of reel things in. Like in the past when things would get heated between myself and Rude Dog, King Rain Rude Dog. You the one kind of reel things in. The same thing with them when Chuck, when Charles and Shaq going at it, he could bring it back in. When Kenny Jet Smith and Sir Charles Barkley getting at it, he could reel things back in. So you're right, he brings balance. However, he's replaceable from the standpoint. If you keep the three of them, if you go back to NBC and you get somebody like Ahmad Rashad, you cannot tell me that somebody like Ahmad Rashad can't replace Ernie Johnson. To me, somebody like Ahmad Rashad would do great in that particular role, even if you could say, well, Ahmad Rashad is older. He hasn't been, the NBA hasn't been on NBC for years, so this younger generation is not even going to know who Ahmad Rashad is. They never know he was a color guy and a broadcaster on NBC for years. They're not going to know he's played in the NFL, so on and so forth. And he was like the top guy on NBC in those NBA on NBC days. They're not going to know him. Cool. Even if you bring a younger cat in, to really kind of feel like Ernie Johnson role, I think Ernie Johnson is replaceable. I mean, I know we have this opposing points of view, and I agree with you in terms of the chemistry that they have, but I think EJ is replaceable. Now, like I said, the caveat is going to be, because we know Shaq has the Big Shaq podcast. Shaq is involved in a lot of stuff. Is he going to be able to get out the TNT deal? Is Kenny the Jet Smith going to be able to get out the TNT deal? We know Sir Charles, he's already made it clear that, hey, he has an out in his contract. Nobody knows what's really going to happen, but, a lot of people that has like inside information allegedly say that it's official that the NBA is going back to NBC and that the NBA is waiting till the end of the season and the playoffs is over before they make this announcement. So we'll see how things play out, but you make an excellent point there, phenomenal chemistry. But at the end of the day, I feel like Ernie Johnson, even though he's great in his role, I think he's replaceable in my opinion.
Okay, well, I wish TNT the best because I look forward to the inside of the inside the NBA.
Inside the NBA, yeah.
That's what I said. And I look forward to that. If I
Yeah, me
haven't
too.
even watched the game, I will watch that because they have that camaraderie and that spice that I look forward to. So we wish them the best of luck. And I only thing I would say in that situation. I just wish Shaq speaks up a little bit more because Shaq, I like Shaq. I mean,
Well, I'm gonna be truthful. A lot of the issues that people have with Shaq, and first and foremost, the issue of, but the way he articulates, a lot of people feel like, he mumbles a lot, and his speech isn't
yes,
clear and transparent. He's hard to
yes,
understand. So a lot of individuals have that issue with Shaq. And then in addition to that, in terms of you saying him speaking up, last week we talked about the issue between him and Shannon Sharp. And more than anything, it seems as if when it comes to his playing career, Shaq is kind of hypersensitive. But in terms of him being vocal, especially when it's him against Charles Barkley, I mean, he's extremely vocal. So I disagree with you from that perspective. But I think those three pieces are vital pieces to inside the NBA as far as I'm concerned.
okay. Any other open discussions, Coach?
All right, the next open discussion topic is, there's this narrative out there that more so American players, but also American fans, that they hate on the European superstar players. And when I say European superstar players, I'm talking about the Joker. I'm talking about Luka. I'm talking about Giannis, the Greek Freak. More than anything, in my personal opinion, don't get me wrong. I think when it comes to Giannis, that's a legitimate claim, because the reason being, there were instances where Giannis, to me, was clearly the best player in the world, but yet they were trying to push people like KD or LeBron or whoever else, in that role, and when that clearly wasn't the case. So I think the hate for the Greek Freak was legitimate. Of course, we live in America, so race is a huge issue. I think in many instances, when we talk about boxing, I think in America, race is more important than nationality, because you can have a black American fighter fight against a European fighter, and American fans are going to go for the European fighter, even though it's a black fighter from their country. They don't look at nationality. They look at race more than anything. So I think that's a legitimate concern when it comes to the Greek Freak. However, when it comes to the Joker and Luka, I don't think there's no real hate for them as far as I'm concerned. I think is, even though they're both superstar players, they're some of the top players in the world, easily, without question. If I said anything else, I think I would be hating. But truthfully speaking, I think when it comes to, European players, just white players in general, I think in many instances, especially black people, I'm going to just keep it real, it's like they overinflate how good, non-black or white or European players are, in my opinion. Just to give you an example, back in the gap, Larry Bird was a dog. I'm not going to lie, Larry Bird was a dog. But you always have people be like, man, Larry Bird the best player in the NBA, and Larry Bird could be the greatest. I'm like, man, are you crazy? Larry Bird was a phenomenal NBA player, and I'm not taking anything away from him. But to say Larry Bird was better than somebody like a Jordan, he's one of the greatest of all time. He a bad white boy. Woo, woo, woo. Yeah, I'm not denying he was a bad white boy. I'm not even knocking that. But the fact that they would always try to push Larry Bird further than he really should have been pushed, or saying that he was greater than he really is the thing that bothered me. And then you also, have people, saying the same thing about Luka this, Luka that. Luka a dog. I'm not denying that. But to act like Luka is the greatest thing since sliced bread is ridiculous to me. And then lastly, the Joker. Of course, the Joker won. This is where the conversation really stemmed from. Joker won his third MVP. And the Joker is an excellent player. But for individuals to be like, man, the Joker is the greatest center of all time, and he a top 10 player. Man, look, bro. I don't care if the Joker does have 3 MVPs. First and foremost, the Joker, even if you just tell me from an offensive standpoint, the Joker is not the greatest NBA center of all time. In fact, the Joker is not even in my top 5. Right now, all time, I would take Kareem ahead of him. I would take Rudy ahead of him. I would take Shaq ahead of him. I would take Olajuwon ahead of him. I would take David Robinson ahead of him. If you took a prime Olajuwon, David Robinson, and put them against the Joker right now, man, hey, I would take either one of them two over the Joker. And in addition to that, you know, for people to say that Shaq is hating on the Joker, man, I'm gonna be honest with you. I think Shaq gave his honest opinion, and Shaq didn't give it. He didn't state his opinion in a backhanded way. He was upfront about it, and he was honest with the Joker. He told him he thought that that SGA deserved to be the MVP over him. So it wasn't like he threw a rock and hit his hand. He told the Joker flat out, like, hey, I think SGA deserved to be the MVP. You know, and then for people to say Shaq was hating, man, I think Shaq was giving his legitimate, honest assessment in this particular situation. And for people to try to, even last year after the NBA final, like, hey, you know, the Joker's finals performance was, you know, more impressive than a couple of, man, that is ridiculous. If you put a prime Shaq up against a prime Joker, man, Shaq would slay the Joker. There's no two ways about it. So even if we just talking about offensively the greatest centers of all time, in my opinion, the Joker is not even in my top 5, let alone being a top 10 great player all time. So that's my perspective of it. When it comes to, just like in the sport of boxing, I think when it comes to just American sports in general, if you white and you good, you the greatest thing ever. If you black and you great, you just good or okay. And that's the issue I have. I mean, I'm not taking anything away from individuals like Larry Bird or individuals like the Joker or Luka. But the fact that they're not black and they white and they're European, in the case of the Joker and Luka, I think they get pushed harder than they really need to be pushed, and they are perceived to be greater than they really are.
Okay, well, I'm not gonna touch that one, Coach.
Man, hey, I'm keeping it real. This to keep it real Saturday, you know what I'm saying?
I know this. I've noticed. Any other open discussion, Coach?
All right, my last open discussion topic is gonna be one of my next videos that's gonna drop probably in the next couple of days. You know, one of the biggest criticism for my hardcore Jaguar Nation fans, you know, of course, you know, the LDC brothers, they still rocking me, but my Jaguar Nation fans kind of feel slighted. You know, they was basically saying that I don't touch on enough Southern University topics on the show. So, you know, being at the spring game was almost a month and a half ago at this point, you know, a lot of individuals are speculating who do I think should be the starting quarterback for Southern. Me personally, I went to the spring game. You know, Noah Bolden, who started in the Bayou Classic, Grambling transfer, he's projected to be the starting quarterback this coming season. He got the starting reps. Then Georgia, you know, redshirt freshman Jalen Woods, he was next, and then last redshirt freshman from Scotlandville High, they tested. You know, he got the last of the snaps. They pretty much, the thing I like with Coach Terrence Graves that was different than Coach Eric Dooley last year. Basically, last year, Harold Blood, he got by far the most reps in terms of the starting. I mean, in terms of starting quarterback, he got by far the most reps. Where it seemed like this year with the spring game, it was more of a balanced approach, and each player got the equal amount of reps. So that's one thing I like. My personal opinion, based on my assessment and my evaluation, even though all 3 quarterbacks threw 2 touchdown passes, to me it seems like Zay tested, even though he's the local guy. I think he's the most athletic of the group, but at the same token, his footwork is the worst. His throwing mechanics is the worst. His decision making, him going through the progression, is the worst. And then on the opposite end of the spectrum, I feel like maybe because he's a more experienced quarterback, Noah, he went through his progression quicker. He got rid of the ball quicker. He made better decisions, so on and so forth. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's no clear-cut starter at this point. But if I had to go roll out one of those 3 quarterbacks as the starter right now, I would go with Noah. And, you know, that's my take on who should be Southern University's starting quarterback. But, you know, since the school year is almost over, I have less than a week left. I'm going to start dropping more Southern University content for all my members of Jaguar Nation that's looking for
it. All right, Coach. Anything else?
That's pretty much it in terms of our open discussion topics, Kate.
Okay, let's move to fact or cap? Start us off, coach.
All right, in terms of factor cap, we discussed this on my brother Jared 11 Green's uh, show, the Southern Baller Show. Every Sunday. The time has been varying lately. So we talked about this Sunday on his show, and we kind of briefly talked about it on a previous episode of Bayou Sports Talk. And basically, Austin Rivers had this controversial take. Of course, Austin Rivers. He played for the Pelicans. That's Doc Rivers' son. He went to Duke University. He was drafted in the first round by the Pelicans. And basically, his assessment and his take was he believes that there's at least 30 NBA players that you could take out the NBA, you could put them in the NFL, and they could make it in the NFL. He said 30 NBA players. But he said you don't have 30 NFL players that can make it in the NBA. And to me, it was a controversial topic. So, factor cap, do you think there's 30 NBA players that could actually make it in the NFL? Factor cap.
Yeah, that see, and that's the thing. The NBA is different. Like I said last week, it's different from what it used to be. So, to be truthfully honest with you, I don't think someone in the NBA could make it in the NFL. Perhaps someone in the NFL could make it in the NBA. The reason why I say that, because they spend a lot of time on the field. Let's say their team, if they are on defense and their team hasn't had the ball as long as they desire, they are on the field much longer than normal. So they have to have the stamina. They need to be able to hold back the offensive line and whatever else is needed to maintain. Now, to do it as long as desired, maybe not, because that's a lot of running back and forward constantly. But I think they probably could hold their own to a certain extent. But I think the NFL can, do as much physical work as the NBA, but the NBA, I don't think they can handle NFL.
Yeah, and of course, my brother Jared 11 Green in the chat, he put he put a big blue cap, and I'm in agreement with him. I think it's big cap. Now, first and foremost, I think one thing that needs to be clear: the players in the NFL and the NBA, they are both great athletes. However, the players in the NBA, they need to have greater respect for the players in the NFL. The players in the NFL need to have a greater respect for the players
Yes.
in the NBA. So I think that's the first thing we need to establish. That's first of all. Second of all, unless you played college football at a high level, you're gonna be hard pressed to make it in the NFL. And the same thing with college basketball or European basketball in the NBA. If you didn't make it to a certain level, it's gonna be difficult for you to make it in that league. Now, in terms of the differences, because see, myself, as you know, I'm a middle school head basketball coach, or former middle school head basketball coach, former middle school head football coach. And one thing I know is even like in high school, this, that, and the third, I knew football was more my lane because I'm only 5'7". Even though I could shoot, like when you playing against legitimate basketball players, only being 5'7", it's hard to get a shot off against guys 6'1", 6'2", and up. You know what I'm saying? Especially, some of those guys that played at our high school that was like 6'6", 6'7". It's hard to get a shot off against those guys. And then on the flip side, guys that play basketball, especially these taller, more slender guys, man, there's no way they can handle the physical. And I know NBA players was like, hey, the NBA players are tougher than we get credit for being, so on and so forth. There's a physical dynamic and physical component that the NBA players don't have to deal with in the NBA that they have to deal with it in the NFL. The NBA is a contact sport. The NFL is a collision sport. It's a huge difference. So, they just think like, hey, the NFL, all you got to do is be able to be fast, run on a straight line, whatever. Man, I mean, you disrespecting these guys' sport. And there's no load management in the NFL. Even though, NBA players, well, hey, the NFL season is only 17 weeks and we play, 82 games, blah, 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 blah. But guess what? There's no load management. You don't have to worry about going over the middle and catching the slant and worry. But even though the NBA is not as physical as it used to be, and the NFL is not as physical as it used to be, being a tough NBA player and being tough in the NFL is two different types of toughness. Because Draymond Green is considered to be a tough NBA player, and they showed him playing football at Michigan State. Michigan State wasn't that good at the time. Draymond Green played basketball at Michigan State, and they showed him trying to go out there and play football. I'm not gonna lie, boo, he was trash. They had him playing tight end, a wide receiver. They tried to split him and flex him out wide. He couldn't even get off the line of scrimmage, and when he did, he tried to go up for the ball. The DB was about to knock his head off. So NBA play, I mean, don't get me wrong. I think if you took, at best, max, you might have maybe about 5 NBA players who, if you took them in their prime and you give them like maybe a year or two to make transition to the NFL, they could make it. And when I say prime, I'm talking about a prime LeBron James, because he does have an NFL body. Not the height-wise, but I'm talking in terms of physical build. Russell Westbrook, a prime Russell Westbrook, could have made it in the NFL, if you give him a certain amount of time to prep. Of course, Zion Williamson, us being Pelicans fans, he could make it in the NFL, maybe being a left tackle. And maybe right now, of the current crop, I'll probably see the only one I think that could make it is Anthony Edwards. So a prime LeBron, a prime Russell Westbrook, a prime Zion, which, of course, he's still in his prime, and Anthony Edwards. To me, that's probably only maybe 4 at their absolute peak. You could give maybe a year or two, and they could be a productive NFL player. Of course, we know a bunch of NFL players that were excellent, like 3-sport athletes, like Deion Sanders, like Randy Moss, like Chris Carter, Marvin Harrison Sr., so on and so forth. And not only that, but NFL players, they play basketball in the summertime to stay in shape. And I think the difference between the two sports is, in terms of NBA players, the NBA players, being able to handle the ball, which was kind of like my biggest deficiency, playing basketball. Handling the ball and shooting are both skill sets. And NFL players are more muscular bound and more muscle build, because you have to be able to take the pounding. So if you took an NFL player and try to put him in the NBA, he's not going to be able to shoot as well because, of course, he's more muscle bound. And then, of course, muscle memory comes into play. And then, of course, he's not going to be able to handle the ball like an NBA player. And then in addition to that, he's not going to be as tall as the average NBA player. Because if you're 6'5" and 6'6" in the NFL, you'd probably more than likely, you probably one of the tallest players on the field, especially if you're a skill player. You like Randy Moss, you're 6'4", you dwarfing 5'10", 5'11" DB. Whereas if you took Randy Moss and you put him in the NBA, now he's a guard. And he's a shooting guard probably. And he doesn't handle the ball well enough to be a point guard. So it's differences. Whereas if you take an NBA player and you try to stick him in the NFL, first of all, a lot of them too tall. If you took a tall NBA player, just say a Wemby or a Shaq, man, they'll get their legs broken trying to play in the NFL. And then in addition to that, there's a physical component that they really have to deal with. Because even Charles Barkley said this recently when he was on Club Shay Shay. He said he went out there and played football for one day because the football coach at his high school was trying to get him out there. He said he got beat up that one day. He was like, man, these guys hitting each other for real out there. And he tells this story all the time. So I don't understand why some of these NBA players, even though NBA players make more money than NFL players, aside from that, I don't understand why they think it's would be easier to transition from a professional sport to professional sport. Like I said last week, boxing and MMA are both combat sports. You can't take a high-level MMA fighter and just drop him in a box and expect him to be the heavyweight champion, and vice versa. They're both combat sports, and they're more similar to each other than the NFL is to the NBA. So there's no way you could take a NBA player and drop him in the NFL and think he's gonna be a productive factor in the NFL and vice versa. So they're different sports for a reason. That's why when you see players in high school and they might be a three-sport superstar, they might be excellent in basketball, excellent in football, excellent in track. They have to pick a lane after a certain point. Even if you look at players that played in the NFL, like Julius Peppers, he played basketball at North Carolina and he played football at North Carolina. He was more of a football player. And then you got guys like Jimmy Graham who played basketball at the U and he played football. He ended up playing for the Saints. And then, on the flip side of it, somebody like Antonio Gates, he like the lone exception. He didn't even play college football. He played college basketball, but he was only 6'3" and he played power forward. He wasn't big enough to make it in the NBA in terms of height. So it took him like a year or two to transition to the NFL, and he ended up making it. But these guys are extremely rare. Guys that play in the NBA, more than likely, the vast majority of them is not going to make it in the NFL and vice versa. There's only a few rare exceptions that can make it probably in the NFL or NBA. So that's why guys go more towards football, because coaches, scouts, agents tell them, hey, you're probably better suited for the NFL. And the same thing with NBA players. So Austin Rivers, that was complete cap. There's no way you could take 30 NBA players and put them in the NFL. They can't handle just the physical component of it alone. So,
Okay, Coach, I have a factor cap.
Okay, what's your factor cap?
So I was reading that with the NBA draft, because we know Bronny is trying to be drafted, and it says that they're expecting that several teams will be drafting him, basically competing to get him. My fact is, do you think these teams that are going to be competing for him trying to throw some competition out there to pull him away from his dad? Or do you think that they're genuinely interested in him?
All right.
So basically, do you think they just trying to throw dad off? Factor cap?
I think it's cap. I mean, initially, I'm not gonna lie, watching him during the season, I didn't think he was NBA ready. Truthfully speaking, I didn't think he was good enough to be in the NBA. But recently, he went to the NBA Combine, and for the most part, if you are down enough college player, you don't have to play in the Combine games. You don't have to go through the drills. You don't have to do whatever. But he wasn't that good. And of all the players that performed at the Combine, he did well. So more than anything, he's kind of demonstrated that and the thing about I like about him, he's self-aware enough to realize, like, hey, I know I'm not as good as my dad, but I could be a productive NBA player. I could be like a Drew Holiday. And at least some of the players he named like Drew Holiday on his little short list, like he realized, like, hey, I'm not going to be a superstar like my dad, but I feel like I could be a productive role player. And honestly, I don't think they're just trying to do this just to compete with the Lakers. They're not just doing this to get his dad, because let's be realistic at this point, even though he's still a superstar, he's still one of the top players in the league. At this point, his dad is in the twilight of his career. I don't think they just drafted him just to kind of get his dad over there to wherever they are. I think they drafted him because they legitimately believe he can help their team win. So at this point, I'm not saying I made a complete 180, because I'm going to be honest with you on this show. I was extremely critical of his decision to come into the NBA draft. But, I think at this point he's demonstrated that even if he's not a high first-round pick, even if he's a lottery pick, a first-round pick, or even a second-round pick, I think he's demonstrated that he's probably good enough to make it in the NBA. He's not going to be a star player, but I think he could be a contributor and could be a role player.
Do you think that I've noticed and I heard how Steph Curry talked about how he wasn't good, and with the right help, he came the Steph Curry knows now. Do you think Bronny could be like that, be a Steph Curry,
Well,
with the right help, like like Steph Curry had?
Well, I think the thing about it, the one good thing about it, in college you have college coaches, and of course, as you go up in level, like from middle school basketball coaches, like for example, I didn't have the kind of time to dedicate to the individual development of certain players. So when you get to high school, you get more individual work. When you jump from high school to college, you get even more individual work. And the same thing when you go from college to the NFL, and I mean, I'm sorry, from college to the NBA.
Excuse me, but coach, also you have to keep in mind money does play a factor.
Well,
So
I'm getting
if
ready.
okay, go ahead.
I'm getting ready to get around to that point. But the point I'm trying to make is, in the NBA, you don't have to worry about going to class for one. Second of all, you NBA teams, even though college teams have a lot of money to throw at the development of a player, the NBA, these are mega franchises making ridiculous amounts of money. They have better facilities. They have more people to work with you. You have shooting coaches, strength coaches, whatever. Better facilities, more money, more resources. And the thing that would help him is the fact that in college, even though he has good resources, good coaches, whatever, in the NBA, he's going to have even better coaches, better facilities, better resources, more things at his disposal. So if anything, that will only benefit his game. So that's why many individuals basically saying that, hey, he don't need to go back to college because he's already demonstrated he's good enough to play in the NBA. So he doesn't need to go back to college, and he's going to get better coaching in the NBA. He's going to have more time to work on his game, so on and so forth. So at the end of the day, certain individuals feel like to make the jump to the NBA, first you have to be dominant in college. And other individuals feel like he can be a contributor, he can be a role player in the NBA. And only going to the NBA, he's going to have better coaches, he's going to have more resources at his disposal. So he's going to be a better player. So at the end of the day, I think he's decent enough to play in the NBA now. I've changed my position, and we'll see how things work out for him.
I feel that to get him ready and get him to another level, his dad, if need be, can provide that someone to do that one-on-one work with him as needed, because you don't have, if you have 25, I'm just throwing out a number, and this is not the exact case, but if you have 25, 30 players and you have uh, a coach that has about 10 people in that group, he won't get the time that he that one-on-one that he may need to get him to that next level. So with finances, he can get more work, and when you are in this certain bubble, it will exempt you from some of the things that everybody else has to do, because he's getting that work that is needed, if you understand what I'm saying.
Oh yeah, see that's what I was saying. And as you go up in level, you have more money, more resources, and you get more individualized attention, and you can work on your game more. And then of course he's gonna have like his dad. That's one thing about his dad. That's the reason why at this age, because I'm not gonna lie, in years past, maybe about 20, 30, 40 years ago, at the age his dad is, he'll be considered a dinosaur in the NBA. But the fact that, he has, personal coaches in terms of strength coaches, this, that, and the third, he eats right, he gets the right amount of sleep. If he gets hurt, he may get in a hyperbaric chamber, whatever the case may be. So he has all of this money and these resources to keep his body in tip-top shape. And the fact that he has a dad, like, first of all, he has LeBron's genetics. And second of all, his dad is going to try to instill his work ethic in him. And in addition to that, like you said, the coaches and everybody is around him, he's going to have access to that also in terms of his dad working out, so on and so forth. So all of those things are going to help take him to the next level. Now, the thing with Steph, I think Steph kind of downplayed how good he was at Davidson. He might not have been a superstar coming out of high school, but he was the man in college. That was the reason why he was able to be a lottery pick and go to the Golden State Warriors. So I think he downplayed how good he was in college, but he's right, having the right coaches, having the right training, getting the right sleep, the right diet, the right individualized attention to work on your game. All of those things could elevate you and take you to the next level.
Any other factor, Cap Coach?
That's it for me, Kate. What about you?
I have one other question, but I want to ask this before we move forward. Do
Uh-huh.
you think, since we talked about with boxing, do you think, um, and just give me a factor, Cap, do you think Tyson, because I know he's much older now than when he was fighting, do you think that he has that potential to win? This guy, he's not thinking this guy is as good as he's putting on, and Tyson will beat the brakes off of him. Yeah.
That's a hard one to say, Kay. It's difficult for me to say factor, Cap, because in terms of just actual talent, Tyson is light years ahead of Jake Paul. But we don't know if there's some funny business in play, and is Tyson going to throw this fight, or is he just too old? Even though he's, from an athletic standpoint, he's way more gifted than Jake Paul. Is Father Time too much in Jake Paul's favor for him to savagely knock him out the way he would have 30 years ago? So it's difficult to say. I really legitimately don't know. But if I had to lean one way or the other, I'll go with fact. If he is a shell of what he was, he would savagely and viciously stop Jake Paul. So I'm gonna go with fact.
Okay, because I feel like even though he may not be as young as he used to, with the wisdom that he has, he can work around those things that he may not be as seasoned on, that he has gone fallen behind on, if you understand what I'm
Oh
saying.
yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, he has knowledge, and I mean, the thing about it is, you know, me and a couple of coaches at my school was talking, and we was talking about how a lot of people say Brian Scalabrine is trash, right? They was talking about, oh, he's like the most trash NBA player, trash, 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 trash. And then Brian Scalabrine, for those individuals who don't know, he played in the NBA, played for the Celtics. He played for several teams in the NBA. So what he did was he challenged like just regular people off the street that might be real good basketball players to games of one-on-one. And essentially, the vast majority of people he played against, they didn't even score. And like he was telling them, hey, I'm closer to LeBron than you are to me. And the same thing applies in this particular instance. Even though Jake Paul is a professional fighter, let's be real. He's not fighting against, up and coming fighters that may be on the same level. All the fighters he's fought is kind of been past their prime MMA fighters, or way past their prime boxers. He's not fighting against young fighters that's on the same level as him. So the point I'm trying to make is, to me, he's strategically cherry picking. But even with this being said, Tyson, from a skill level standpoint, is light years above anything he could ever be. The only thing he could hope for is the fact that maybe there's some payola involved, and maybe Tyson is paid to take a dive, or maybe Tyson, is too far past his prime in terms of, from an age standpoint, to win. So that's the only two things that's going to help Jake Paul. But other than that, if Tyson is a fraction of what he used to be, Jake Paul is going to savagely get knocked out.
Okay. Any other factor, Cap Coach?
That's it for me.
Okay, NFL, what is it you're looking forward to, Coach, in the NFL, and what other topics do you have?
Well, I know recently people was talking about how the NFL schedule has been leaked. Me personally, I haven't seen it myself, so I'm not really going to address that particular issue. However, NFL teams had rookie mini camps recently, and in terms of the Saints, they were talking about how good Spencer Rattler looked in NFL rookie mini camp. And when it comes to the rookie mini camp, you have to take that with a grain of salt. The reason being is because these guys are out here in t-shirts and shorts, and in many instances, these guys, they look better in t-shirts and shorts than they actually do in pads. That's the reason why, in our previous topic, people like Austin Rivers think they can get out there and they can play in the NFL. Putting a helmet and putting shoulder pads and stuff on is different than just running out there in t-shirts and shorts. So that's why people like Austin Rivers might have this overinflated idea what he can actually do on an NFL field as opposed to the reality of it. Once two things that I always notice as a coach and even as a player that really gets players is first and foremost the heat, especially out here in South Louisiana, is extremely hot and humid during those summer months. Then also the physicality once you get to hitting. So in many instances, players look good or they look better in minicamp, especially rookie minicamp, than they're actually going to do in actual training camp or even in the actual season. So it's going to be interesting to see if, people like Spencer Rattler, players on other NFL teams that's doing exceptionally well in rookie minicamp, how they going to do when these veterans come into these mini camps, how they going to do during training camp, and how they going to actually do when the season starts. So it's going to be interesting to see. It's just kind of food for thought. But more than anything, it was just a good, a good topic in terms of them projecting what Spencer Rattler could potentially be as a Saint. Could he eventually be the heir apparent to Derek Carr? Who knows? Time will tell. We'll see how things play out.
Now, outside of the Saints, what are you looking forward to? I know I was telling you I was looking forward to seeing what Lamar is going to do. I really hope he has a great season. I want to see them win the Super Bowl if the Saints can get there. What would be one thing you look forward to? That's outside of Russell Wilson.
Well, that's one thing we really look forward to. With the addition of Derrick Henry, can Lamar Jackson go to that next level? Did they get the requisite pieces that he needs in terms of offensive linemen, in terms of receiving weapons? Did they get him everything he needs to have to get to that next level, to get over that hump? Is the Kansas City Chiefs going to be able to go back and win a Super Bowl and do it again? How is Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, how they going to adjust to being with the Pittsburgh Steelers? Is Mike Tomlin going to be on the hot seat like people claim he is, which I don't think he should be. I think Mike Tomlin, if he's not the best, he's one of the best coaches in the NFL. I'm not just saying it because he's a black coach. I'm saying it because he's that guy. And there's a lot of other like storylines and dynamics to look forward to in terms of the upcoming season. I know recently, like I said, it was talking about the schedule being potentially leaked. So, what matchups are we going to see, from week to week once the regular season starts? Is the NFL going to have the same issue in terms of injuries that the NBA is having right now? Because as we know, a lot of superstar players are injured in the NBA playoffs. People like Giannis, people like Damian Lillard, people like Kristaps Porzingis. Zion didn't play at all for our Pelicans in the playoffs. So is the injury bug going to be as prevalent in the NFL as it is in the NBA? Of course, we know in terms of physicality, the NFL is a different level than the NBA. But, to me, it seems like with all the advances in medicine and in terms of like nutrition, so on and so forth, to me, it seems like players shouldn't be getting hurt as much as they are. You can understand it with the NFL because it's a much more physical game, but in the NBA, I think the load management thing is an issue. So when it comes to the NFL, there's a lot of, storylines I'm looking forward to. Of course, first and foremost, above all, the New Orleans Saints. Then, of course, the Lamar Jackson-led Baltimore Ravens. How is him and Derrick Henry going to coexist together? How in that particular division, how is the Steelers going to look with Russell Wilson and Justin Fields? How they're going to be able to coexist? Can the Kansas City Chiefs win again another Super Bowl? what division is going to be weakest in the NFL, which what division is going to be the best division. So there's a variety of different storylines that I'm looking forward going into training camp and going into the upcoming NFL season.
Okay. Anything else, Coach?
That's it for me, Kay.
Okay. Let's take this time out to shout out everyone that has shown us love. Let's send shout out to Jared O11 Green, shout out Jay Barr, shout out Story Time, shout out Relaxing Calm Rain, shout out Motivation to Be a Millionaire, shout out to any and everyone that may have not been on the live chat today. Thank you. We appreciate your love and your support. Coach, any other shout outs that we missed? And also shout out to Ray.
Well, I like to shout out, my special section of the LDBC. We already shout out my brother Jared 11 Green, even though he's not in the chat today. My brother Big Joe Townsend, my brother Brent Fox, my brother Jay Good. Major shout out to the general of the LDBC 7 8 Sports TV. Shout out all my LDBC brethren, everybody in LDBC, and of course I want to shout out Jaguar Nation. They really kind of one of the driving forces in my channel. Really, I'm gonna be truthful. It's to the point now. Like if I drop a video, live stream, if it's a Southern University topic, video or live stream, it kind of tends to get more traction. So I want to be sure that I give special love and special attention to Jaguar Nation. I know Southern University football is pretty much the driving force of this particular channel. So, shout out to Jaguar Nation and shout out to all the people from Southern University. And basically, at the end of the day, just everybody that's been supporting us, rocking with us. Much love and appreciation to y'all. Peace and blessings to y'all.
All right, Coach. So let's let everyone know how they can follow and stay up on Ray. Please like, subscribe, and share with King underscore King Ray with 2 Y's underscore and also underscore uh I'm sorry, Ray Swank 225. That's how you can stay up with Ray, and that's in IG for the King Ray, and for YouTube the Ray Swank 225, guys. And so, Coach, let everyone know how they can stay up with you, and that's all on Coach 67 Sports TV, correct? With
Yeah,
all social media platforms,
on
correct?
all social media platforms, on X, which is formerly known as Twitter, on Instagram, on TikTok. I have a Coach 67 Sports TV Facebook group, so you can catch me at Coach 67 Sports TV on all social media platforms. That's how you can reach out to me. That's how you can follow me. Since school is getting ready to come to an end, my plan is to ramp up the quality and the volume of content that I'm producing and put it on multiple social media platforms. So y'all stay tuned. Y'all keep rocking with us, and we appreciate y'all support.
All right, Coach. Well, also, guys, um, please, uh, please like, subscribe, and share with Coach as well as with the Bayou Sports Talk and with our closing quote
Hold up,
by
Kate. Hold up, Kate. I don't mean to cut you off, boo, real quick. For those individuals that's like, why some of us might be cutting in and out while we speaking. Like I said, there was a lot of recent thunderstorms in this area. So, the Wi-Fi probably at certain points cut in and out. So please bear with us. But more than anything, we appreciate y'all love and support. Back to you, Kate.
Okay, closing quote: never give up, never give in, and when the upper hand is ours, may we have the ability to handle the win with the dignity that we absorb the loss. That's Doug Williams. And guys, please like, subscribe, share, tell someone about Bayou Sports Talk. We appreciate your love and support. Till we meet next time, much love. Bye bye.